and welcome to the program. As Islamic finance begins to take shape in Nigeria with the increase in the non-interest transactions and the issuance of new regulations to support them, the non-interest finance segment instruments, assets and products have been identified as catalysts for growth in leading and developing economies globally. Looking at Nigeria, how can Islamic finance support the development of a sustainable capital market? On today's episode of the Islamic Finance Weekly, I will be discussing leveraging Islamic finance to develop a sustainable capital market in Nigeria. And of course, I have an expert on the show, Mustapha, a capital market and Islamic finance lawyer. Mustapha joins me virtually from London. Good morning, Mustapha. Thank you for coming on the program once again.
Thank you for having me.
You know, 2 weeks ago, we discussed on how millennials and Gen Zs view non-interest finance in Nigeria. But today, we'll be dwelling on another relevant topic, leveraging Islamic finance to develop a sustainable capital market in Nigeria. So let's begin the conversation. You know, the Islamic capital market, a subsector of the capital market, promotes Shariah-compliant securities or instruments and provide investment opportunities for a wide range of investors. Do you believe the Nigerian capital market is serving the needs of investors who want to diversify their investments?
Oh, I think so. I think the Islamic capital market has contributed towards that to an extent. So like over the past 10 years, for example, we've seen the growth of this subsect of the market, the most obvious example being Sukuk. So as a product, there has been overwhelmingly welcome by the market. So we've had numerous sovereign, subnational and corporate issuances. The market is starting to come of age. 10 years ago, that wasn't the case. So yeah, Islamic finance has helped improve and diversify the investment opportunities in Nigeria. This has been very, very important, and not just from a belief standpoint where people want to invest in accordance with their faith, but also from a purely business perspective, allowing conventional investors to diversify the risks of their portfolios. However, I worry about the concentration of Sukuk in infrastructure and real estate. It would be good to see other sectors issue more of these securities as well. This would further help in portfolio diversification to avoid specific sector risks. As things stand, most Sukuk in Nigeria are subject to similar construction or procurement-related risks because of their concentration in the mentioned industries. But this is obviously starting to change. Last year, with the advent of Fund 6 by PenCom, which allows pensioners direct their pension fund administrators, that's the PFAs, to invest pension funds in Sharia-compliant products. So my hope is that this will drive demand from the PFAs, spurring more Islamic capital market issuances. But to conclude, yes, I do think Islamic finance has, to a very large extent, offered alternative investment options that meet people's investment appetites, which we did not necessarily have a few years ago.
All right, thank you, Mustapha. You know, I heard what you said. We've seen development of Sukuk in the capital market, the pension funds you talk about, Sharia compliance pension fund. But for us to see more investors to diversify their portfolios in the capital market, we need continuous education, investor education, on how they can understand capital market investment and make sound investment decisions.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, so the development of Sharia-compliant financial products is remarkable in the Islamic finance industry. Apart from Sukuk bond you talk about and the pension fund says, what other areas of Islamic finance products supported the growth of Nigeria's capital market?
So globally speaking, Islamic banking and Sukuk issuances account for the lion's share of the Islamic finance sector. These are the two areas that have gained the most traction, and that's also the case in Nigeria, and why we always tend to focus on these two areas. So in terms of banking, we currently have 3 full-fledged Islamic banks in Nigeria and 1 banking window. I believe the window is currently in the process of becoming a standalone bank itself. These banks have developed and contributed to a number of products available on the market. This ranges from trade finance products like Murabaha or Wakala, the asset-backed products like the Jara contracts, construction financing through Istisna, or even investment accounts using Mudaraba. So the Islamic banks play a very, very crucial role in the development of this area. I would be remiss not to mention the role played by the fund managers. We have firms like 117 Capital and Burak Capital who are doing a lot of work to advance Islamic finance in Nigeria. I expect to see the development of more Sharia-compliant mutual and even equity funds. Then hopefully one day we'll get ETFs, but that's down the line. At the moment, I only know of one mutual Islamic fund right now in Nigeria. There may be more though. We also have the Takaful industry. Takaful is the Islamic equivalent of insurance. So these offer a range of insurance-related products, which are normally Mudaraba partnership-based. So I'll say these are the different organizations or other subsects of the market that contribute.
Definitely, Mustapha, Islamic finance products will not only grow the Nigerian capital market, but it will also address the Nigeria infrastructure deficit. And I will also believe if we can see more of these Islamic finance products, apart from Musharaka, Mudaraba, Istisna, Sukuk bond, if we can see more of Islamic finance products for people to really invest in.
We'll get there. We'll get there.
Of course, we will get there. Thank you so much. But let's look at the Central Bank of Nigeria 2021 financial sector report. The stock market capitalization was $54.3 billion, which was lower than the $211.5 billion deposit money banks. How can Islamic finance be leveraged to develop a sustainable capital market in Nigeria?
Well, sustainability is a very, very topical area right now. I think it's very, very wide and sometimes vague or imprecise as a term. I like to look at sustainability more from the social perspective than the environmental point of view. This is obviously because the Nigerian economy isn't at the point where we can champion the environmental aspects to the highest standards. We still heavily rely on fossil fuels and on all levels, from the governments to individuals. So the social and governance elements of sustainability seem to be the real protein when discussing Nigeria to me. So the SEC developed sustainability principles for the market sometime last year. In these principles, I think the fourth principle or so speaks to financial inclusion amongst other things. So according to FINA, the Northwest and the Northeast of Nigeria are the most financially excluded regions in the country. So these regions also happen to be Muslim-dominated areas. So I think an opportunity for Islamic finance is to play the role of bringing these individuals into the fold of the formal economy, which would consequently have long-term positive implications for the capital markets with more participants and investors. From a governance perspective, Islamic finance transaction structures, generally speaking, that is, put in place procedures that ensure funds are utilized and are governed in line with their original intention. This provides sustainability in financing, especially with infrastructure and other critical sectors. This is why, as you mentioned, Sukuk has been very, very influential in meeting capital projects and infrastructure deficits. So I think in this area, we've got that right, and that we can leverage this further to continue to develop the market with more issuances.
For the Islamic finance industry to deepen the financial exclusion we have in Nigeria, continuous education and knowledge sharing will make more people to be interested in sustainability, and this will spur innovation and customize local products. Thank you, Mustapha. But how can we achieve synergy between the Islamic capital market and SRI, sustainable responsible investing, to make the Nigerian capital market attractive for sustainable and Sharia-compliant investors and issuers?
Well, for the most part, I think Islamic finance fits well into the sustainability framework. In itself, Islamic finance is predicated upon ideals like fairness, equality, and morality. It's designed to promote public interest with concepts like do no harm, for example, Or another example, Islamic finance is restricted from investing in certain industries deemed as unethical, like weapons and ammunition, etc., etc. So I think the synergy between Islamic finance and sustainability already exists. What we lack is an investor understanding of how Islamic products work and why they are structured the way they are.
That is where capacity building comes in.
Yeah. So essentially, in telling the story of Islamic finance, we tend to focus a lot on the what and not enough on the why. It isn't enough to say riba is prohibited without providing the context to what its prohibition is guarding against. This adds meaning and understanding to Islamic finance. I think the industry can collectively portray Islamic finance better, aligning it with its sustainable objectives. So we can't necessarily expect investors to key into something they do not understand enough of. So from my perspective, sustainability is an opportunity for Islamic finance. So Islamic finance can use sustainability's popularity as a way to present itself in a more familiar light to the market.
Now, as we wrap up the conversation, you are in London and you have seen how the United Kingdom has emerged as the Western hub of Islamic finance. What advice do you have on deepening the Nigerian Islamic capital market?
Well, there are lessons to be taken from every jurisdiction.
So we need your expertise. Just tell us your perspective. Share with us your perspective, what we can learn from you to deepen the Nigerian Islamic capital market.
So in the UK, the market is very demand-driven. There's a market for Islamic finance here, which is mostly second or third generation immigrants. This has led to a wave of startups offering different services to cater to people's everyday financial needs. So in Nigeria, I'd like to see the market follow a similar route. Right now, virtually all Islamic financial institutions in Nigeria are the traditional brick and mortar institutions. But here in the UK, we have Islamic finance is being infused with tech to reach younger demographics. Maybe that's just my bias because I'm that demographic. But we have banks like Algebra, which is essentially an Islamic bank branded as an ethical bank in order to appeal to a wider audience or depositor base that are interested in sustainability, which naturally includes the Shariah-compliant investor. So yeah, I would essentially just like to see Nigeria have more startups in this area and also leverage technology more. This is the direction finance as a whole is going. I think the Islamic finance industry should key into that as earliest as possible. And that's a lesson you can take from the UK.
The benefit of Islamic capital market is that it offers Muslims and other ethically conscious investors the opportunity to invest without compromising their convictions. Also to organization, Islamic capital market is a veritable source of capital mobilization for asset growth, and it can also support the governments in reducing economic disparity, enhancing ethics, equity, and property rights, and a pipeline for financing large infrastructure projects. Mustapha, I believe with all these features, the Nigerian capital market has immense opportunities to harness Islamic finance for sustainable investment. Thank you very much, Mustapha, for spending ample time with us on the Islamic Finance Weekly. It was nice having this conversation with you. Have a nice day and take care.
Thank you for having me. The pleasure is absolutely mine.
Bye. And that brings us to the end of the program. To watch our Islamic Finance Weekly videos, go to WebTV banking channel on proshare.co website. You can as well follow us on all our social media platforms displaying on the screen. Thank you for watching. See you next week Friday for another episode.